Today, we dive into a chilling update on the Chris Watts case, new insights, shocking details, and expert psychological analysis from a licensed therapist on one of America's most haunting tragedies. Hello, and welcome to Therapy Crime Scenes. It's where I dive into the psychology behind some of the most famous crime scenes investigations known to man. I'll explore not only the what and the how, but also the why, the psychology behind why people create such heinous crimes. I'm John Cordray, a licensed professional counselor, and today I'm revisiting a case that's been known throughout America for a very long time, and that's the Chris Watts case. I've got some updates that I wanted to share with you, some very intriguing things, and let's get behind the psychology, the psyche of Chris Watts. It's a case that's heartbreaking as it is perplexing. It's a story of betrayal, deception, and an unimaginable loss. As we unpack this tragedy, I'll also share the latest updates on Chris Watts and offering a fresh perspective on where the case stands now and what it teaches us about the human mind. In August 2018, in Frederick, Colorado, a quiet suburban town where the Watts family, Chris, Shannon, and their two young daughters, Bella and Celeste, live what appears to be an idyllic life. Shannon, 34, is pregnant with their third child, a boy they name Nico. She's a vibrant, driven mom, sharing her family's milestones on social media, promoting her work with a multi-level marketing company. Chris is 33, seems like a supportive husband, as he's a soft-spoken, oil-filled worker who's lost weight and embraced a healthier lifestyle. Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, are at the heart of their world, adorable, full of life, and cherished. From the outside, they're a picture of the American dream. But beneath the surface, a storm is brewing. On August 13th, 2018, Shannon and the girls vanish. Chris takes to the local news, his voice trembling, pleading for their safe return.
Somebody has her and they're not safe. Like, I want them back now. If they're safe right now, they're gonna come back.
His eyes are darting, his demeanor is uneasy. The nation watches, heartbreaking for the seemingly devastated father. But within days, the facade crumbles. Shannon's friend raises the alarm when Shannon misses a doctor's appointment, and police find Shannon's purse, phone, and car at home. Suspicion turned to Chris, whose story unravels under scrutiny. He fails the polygraph test, and during a chilling interrogation, he confesses. He killed Shannon after an emotional conversation. Later, he admits to smothering Bella and Celeste, disposing of their bodies at his worksite. Shannon in a shallow grave, the girls in oil tanks. The details are gut-wrenching. Shannon, 15 weeks pregnant, was strangled in her bed. The brutality was imaginable, made worse by Chris's initial lies that Shannon killed the girls and he killed her in a rage. He led police to the bodies, revealing a calculated cover-up. In November 2018, to avoid the death penalty, Chris did plead guilty to 9 charges, including first-degree murder and unlawful termination of a pregnancy. He was sentenced to 5 life terms without parole, plus 84 years for additional counts. Today, he's at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin, a maximum security prison where he'll spend the rest of his life. As a therapist, I'm drawn to the question that haunts us all. Why? Why did Chris do this to his family? What drives a man to do this? To understand Chris Watts, we need to peel back the layers of his psyche. On the surface, he was a nice guy, quiet, agreeable, a doting dad, but beneath that mask lay a man grappling with suppressed emotions, a fractured sense of self, and a desperate need for control. Court documents and interviews reveal Chris felt overshadowed by Shannon's strong personality. She was the planner, the voice of the family, where he played a supportive role. Friends described him as passive, bottling up his emotions. In therapy, we call this repressed resentment. When unaddressed, emotions fester, building pressure until they erupt into destructive ways. Enter Nicole, Chris's mistress. In June 2018, Chris began an affair with a coworker. This is where a new identity begins. He became the confident, unattached man that he always wanted to be. Text messages from Watts revealed that he was smitten with Nicole, and all of the lies compounded about how he was separated and getting a divorce from his wife. The affair wasn't just a betrayal. It was the catalyst. Psychologically, Chris was compartmentalizing. He was living two different lives. One as a family man, and the other was a free bachelor. This cognitive dissonance created a mental fracture inside of Chris. When Shannon confronted him about their struggling marriage that summer, the pressure became unbearable. Instead of choosing honesty or even a divorce, Chris chose alienation. In his mind, killing his family was a twisted solution to erase his old life and start a new one with his new girlfriend. But let's pause here. This isn't about excusing Chris's actions. His actions were monstrous, and no amount of psychological analysis diminished the evil of his choices. As a therapist, my goal is to analyze Chris's psychological state, not to excuse his behavior. One theory I've explored is the narcissistic personality traits. While not formally diagnosed, Chris displayed hallmarks of narcissistic personality disorder, a need for admiration, his fitness transformation, and the affair boosted his ego, a lack of empathy evident in his callous disposal of his daughter's bodies, and a sense of entitlement, believing he deserved a new life, free of consequences. Narcissists often dehumanize those who no longer serve their purpose. And to Chris, Shannon and the girls became obstacles to his new fantasy. With another lens, toxic masculinity. Chris grew up in a culture where men are taught to suppress their emotions, to be strong, to challenge, to take control. His inability to express his vulnerability to Shannon, to himself, trapped him in a cycle of shame and rage. When Shannon pushed for communication, he shut down. In therapy, I see this often in men who've never learned to process their emotions. They turn to avoidance, in extreme cases, even violence. Chris's affair was an escape, but when reality closed in, Shannon's pregnancy, her suspicions, he didn't seek help. He destroyed. Now let's talk about the victims, because this case isn't just about Chris Watts. Shannon was full of love and ambition, navigating the challenges of motherhood and her career. Bella and Celeste were innocent souls, and their future was taken from them. The loss of Nico, the unborn child, compounds the tragedy. Shannon's family have spoken about their unending grief. In a 2018 victim impact statement, Shannon's brother said, "You took away my entire family, and I'll never forgive you." As a therapist, I think about the ripple effects. Generations altered, trust shattered forever. But Shannon's family have channeled their pain into advocacy, supporting domestic violence awareness, which is a reminder that healing is a collective journey. What's the latest on Chris Watts? He remains in isolation at Dodge, a necessity given the threats he faces from his inmates. A July 2024 New York Post article described him as living in fear, spending 23 hours a day in his cell. He works as a custodian, a mundane routine punctuated by moments of paranoia. Photos of Shannon, Bella, and Celeste adorn his cell, alongside a Bible, a strange sight for a man who betrayed them so profoundly. Prison records show 2 custody violations, one in 2020 for unauthorized communication and property transfer, costing him privileges temporarily. Perhaps the most telling are his prison letters, revealed in an August 2024 Newsweek report. Chris continues to shift blame, calling Shannon a control freak and his girlfriend a harlot. 2 words betray a man still unwilling to face his guilt. In therapy, we call this externalization, reflecting responsibility to avoid self-reflection. He claims to have found faith, but his writing suggests denial, not redemption. Looking on social media, you can see that the fascination about Chris Watts still continues. with users dissecting his interrogation and his affair. A 2024 Reddit thread reflected the case's emotional weight, with many expressing anger at Chris's lack of remorse. From a therapeutic perspective, Chris Watts' case is a study in unprocessed trauma and emotional avoidance. Could intervention have helped? Perhaps. If he had sought therapy to address his resentment and identity crisis, he might have found healthier ways to cope. But that's the tragedy of cases like this. Help is available, but if you don't look for help and seek help, you're not going to get it, and then you'll end up finding ways to cope on your own. And Chris found very violent ways to cope. For those watching or listening who feel trapped in their own struggles, let's be a reminder that reaching out is a strength, not a weakness. Reach out before it's too late. Therapy hotlines, trusted friends, these are lifelines that you can use. So what does this case teach us? First, domestic violence isn't always visible. Shannon's social media portrayed a perfect life, but behind closed doors, her marriage was crumbling. Second, we must destigmatize mental health support, especially for men. Chris's inability to confront his emotions led to a catastrophe. Third, we need to listen to the survivors and honor the victims' legacies. Shannon's family fights for change, and we can amplify their voices by supporting organizations like the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So what does this case stir inside of you? Anger? Sadness? A desire for change? Let's hold space for Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico, whose lights were extinguished way too soon. And let's commit to breaking the cycles that lead to such tragedies through awareness, compassion, and action. So what do you think about Chris Watts' case? He struggled with a lot of narcissistic personality traits, and a lot of people do. It's more common than you realize. However, I want to point out that just because people struggle and have narcissistic personality issues doesn't mean they're going to be violent offenders, doesn't mean that they're going to be murderers like Chris. But we can learn and we can get help. If you're stuck in a relationship in your marriage where you feel like your spouse is a narcissist or is violent or is harming you or abusing you in some way, reach out. Don't remain silent. Reach out for help, and help is available. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Therapy Crime Scenes. Until next time, continue to take care of yourself, keep moving forward, and watch my next video.